Well, good day, my friends. It's your old pal Jordan the Lion. How are you all doing today? I hope you said great. We're coming to you from the great state of Georgia. We're heading to Atlanta today because we're going to go to the grave of the star of one of my favorite movies. Not only the star of, but pretty groundbreaking historically for being the star of this movie. We're going to talk about how his life was affected and how this movie became just, you know, larger than life. It almost became the benchmark for zombie movies. It came out in the days of drive-ins. It was one of the last big hits out of the drive-in, then became a revival movie theater staple ever since. Daze with Jordan the Lion, and you all going to the grave of the great Duane Jones. It begins right now. Of course, I'm talking about Duane Jones' portrayal as Ben in George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead from 1968. Now that the weather's cooled off a little bit and it's not 100 degrees every day, we've got our co-pilot back in the co-pilot position. Good to see you back, Jaw. So Duane is out in section 28. This is a cool old cemetery. I like this one. All right, it is pretty much all the way to the back of the cemetery. But once you find the marker for section 28, he's very easy to find. He's right up here in the front. Second row, Duane Jones has went down in history as being the first African-American leading man in a horror movie where the part was not written specifically for that, for any particular person. In fact, George Romero, when they made Night of the Living Dead, would say Duane Jones was just the best actor that auditioned for the part. He was actually someone that he was raised in New York City, but he went to college in University of Pittsburgh, and that's where he ended up meeting all these people. He had went off and started his career in New York City, started acting and furthering his training, but when they were making the movie, they called him back to Pittsburgh, and so he said it was a great experience. You know, I think he was absolutely perfectly cast. Great voice, great look on screen. Very self-assured for the part, for being a guy who's coming up with all the plans and everything. He exudes that confidence.
I told you those things don't have any strength. I smashed 3 of them and pushed another one out the door.
Did you hear me when I told you they turned over our car?
Oh, hell, any good 5 men can do that.
That kind of a character in a movie is what we want. And there were, I guess, since they've tried to state that maybe part of his casting was political for racial reasons, maybe just they felt because the end, or basically is the last one alive, and then when all the people encroach on the farm, they shoot him. And so people felt that that had even more of an impact because he was African American and for the times and everything. But he just, you know, he didn't like to be known for this. He said he was very grateful for making the movie, and it wasn't that he was unappreciative or anything. He just never wanted to be that guy that only had that one thing to talk about. And he said he always felt like the few rare times he did talk to people about it or would answer questions, it was always repetitive questions. It was always the same thing, nothing creative. And he said it was just kind of like a moment in his life. It wasn't really a huge thing because he did so many other things in his life that defined it. He said, in fact, he thought that one of the things that people should have been talking about this movie was how great it was edited, because the filmmakers had been making commercials on a budget before this, and so they were really concise about the way they filmed it, and they were a real joy to work with, and they did a great job telling the story and keeping the viewers interested. Duane would almost never talk about this movie. Like I said, as perfect as he was in it, he didn't want to be known for it. And so he would say that he ended up becoming a teacher, an acting teacher at NYU and several other places. But he said in several different experiences, in one experience, he was actually out to dinner with some of his students, where there were 3 other students there at the table, one sitting next to him and 2 across. And he said they had a TV in there and it was playing Night of the Living Dead. And he knew this was, you know, a phenomenon basically, because it was popular in the drive-ins. And then he said he would take the subway to teach and everything, and there was a revival theater that always used to show the movie almost every Saturday night at midnight. But he said he was there one day with those students eating, and up on the TV they were playing the movie, and he said, I guess I was looking up too often, and the students across from me turned around to see what I was looking at, and when they saw it, none of them knew that it was me. They didn't recognize him. In fact, they started talking about, like, hey, that guy's pretty interesting looking. Who is that? Billy D. Williams? Like a young Billy D. that we haven't seen him in this before? Or they would say things like, I wonder what happened to that guy. And then he said, one of them actually at the table said, wait, isn't that you? And he said then they would all start arguing about whether it was him or not. He said, I never confirmed it, and I would just leave it at that. And then he said one time he was with a friend inside of a grocery store, and on their TV, they were showing the movie, and his friend said, isn't that crazy that you're walking around here and nobody knows that that's you? And then he said in the third instance, he had some new friends that all of a sudden at dinner one night kind of brought up that they realized he was in the movie. And he said, as they started to ask me questions, I just literally blew right past it, didn't even answer them, and just kind of let them know that wasn't something that I really wanted to talk about. Really wasn't until around 1988 when the movie was celebrating its 20-year anniversary to where he finally gave an interview and kind of talked about these things, where he said, I'm glad that I have a group around me of friends and everything to where I don't have to talk about this. And like I said, he said, I was very appreciative to do it. Don't misconstrue that. I do think it's good, but he said, I'm just not that guy to want to talk about something I did all the time. And so he did so many other things that even though this is an absolute classic to this day that is still seen, and he is still a benchmark for a hero in a movie, in my opinion, especially these horror movies, he didn't live a very long life. And for all that he accomplished, I think this is the thing that he's known for the most. The only time he would really ever do anything with the movie, he said, was if it would help raise money for a good cause. So he said there was a time where some friend of his were gonna open like a gallery, and they thought that a good way to have a fundraiser would be to show the movie and do art-inspired office. So he said in that case, one of the 3 times he ever reached out to George Romero and asked him if he could get a copy of the movie, he said people always just thought I had like stacks of them laying around. He said I didn't even have one for a long time until then, when I asked George if I could borrow one. And they said, sure, come by and pick it up. And when I did, they just said, you can have it. And he said, so I loan that out occasionally to friends that want to use it for educational purposes. But other than that, he really had no interest in profiting or making a big deal about this. So since Duane would probably be kind of mad that I'm here just talking about that, let's give some of his other accomplishments, which were that he studied in Paris after he went to the University of Pittsburgh. He trained as an actor in New York City. He got his master's in communications at NYU, and he did that while he was actually filming the movie. He ended up teaching there, also ended up teaching at Long Island University, and created the English language training programs for the Peace Corps. From 1972 to 1976, he oversaw the literature department at Antioch College. He was the executive director of the Black Theater Alliance from 1976 to 1981, and was a theater actor and teacher pretty much until his death. I guess if I were someone who taught at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York City, I'd probably want to be known for that also. A little bit more than just being in Night of the Living Dead. It's kind of crazy how that works out sometimes. Yes, he was at one of the most prestigious acting schools in the entire country that so many famous people have come out of. Then after he left there, he was literally just taking private students by invitation only. He was that good. Duane Jones died of cardiopulmonary arrest at the age of just 51 while living in Long Island, New York. That is a monumental life. No matter what you love him for, that is a monumental life. A life well lived. And I think in the end, he just didn't want to be pigeonholed. As he would say, I want to make sure, and so I had to keep people at bay that were fans of the movie. He said I had to make sure that people respected me and saw me as a complete person and not just a character from a movie who didn't even have a backstory. Rest in peace, Duane Jones. I want to thank Brendan Ahern and Emerson Begay for becoming my newest Patreons, helping to support the channel and these travels. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you next time from Atlanta, Georgia. Have a great night, and goodbye.